And greetings. Wow, that sounds terrible. So I always debate on these days whether to come in and go to work or not. We haven't faced this for a couple of years. Man, I just started that. Tried to project. Didn't go anywhere. And then I think to myself, you know what? I mean, there's this dazzling mind, these debonair good looks. I bring more to the table than just my voice, don't I?
Yeah, there's a couple variables in there, yeah.
I mean, like nothing I just mentioned. I mean, that's my own
other
fantasy
things.
operating.
Other things.
Right? Yeah. Yes, the allergies, which I was spared of last year because of COVID. Somehow I didn't get allergies, or they weren't as bad. Maybe we didn't go out as much. But they are back, my twice-a-year allergies that I get April, December, every year. Reared their ugly head yesterday. Got really bad. I actually feel great today. Worked out and everything. It's just my voice isn't all the way back. So I wondered, do I come in and work today or not? You know, or do I bring the large Marge? What do you guys think?
I think they can sustain the voice, but as we've heard before, the click-clack of the cough drops, you know, that drives people insane.
Yeah, people do get upset about that, but you're just going to have to, I guess, deal with it. I guess maybe you guys talk more this week or today.
It's good with me, yeah.
Are you guys okay with talking more?
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. You know,
as long as we can talk about ourselves.
You know, that was 2 years ago today?
I do. I saw that, yeah.
Or this week, I mean. 2 years ago this week. Yeah, such a simpler time, wasn't it?
It's kind of a good way to cap off Hollywood's run and whatever it's going to go into now. Yeah,
I mean, sitting in a crowded theater, getting up with a bunch of people that you don't know. Who knows how you voted in the last election or what your belief system is, right?
Yeah.
And when Captain America is worthy of wielding the hammer, and you all stood up together and cheered, right? Those are some good times, right?
Those were.
Now we've got pictures of guys masking their dogs.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Did you take that picture?
No, I had it sent to me.
Wow.
Now we've got the masking of toddlers in Michigan. You know, because the masking of the adults worked so well, right?
Yeah, she should be put in a rubber room at this point for that.
Yeah, I've got other punishments in mind, but we can go with rubber room if you want. I'm okay with that.
It's just starters. I'm getting the conversation
necessarily going. In a mercy triumphs over judgment mood right now, even though I need to be, but I'm not. All right, coming up on the show today, first of all, we see if I can finish the show. That's number one. Number two, but you've got a couple of capable guys that will carry their weight around here. See, I actually feel good. My voice is just drained from allergies for the last 24 hours. We will get into our good friend Bob Vander Plaats will be joining us. He wants to talk about the 2024 presidential field. A couple of people making their way to Iowa. He wants to talk about them, so we'll get into that. Also, I'm wondering if we should put this off for a week. What do you think? We were going to do part 3 of our video series. Should we put that off?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
It also means, though, I don't have like a backup. What do you guys want to do instead?
Todd and I will think of it.
Okay.
At this rate, we might just give you the second hour off.
Okay.
Watch the Avengers.
There you go.
And just like sit here and just like live comment on it?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll figure out something for hour number 2. But before we get to all of that, of course, you need to be reminded, email the program. I teased you there. Steve@stevedeace.com is how you can email us. That's DEACE. I don't know. I wonder, do I sound better? Like, is this more of
than normal?
A typical radio guy voice, right?
No.
No?
No.
I don't have like a little Wolfman Jack or FM DJ thing going on right now?
No.
No?
I don't know. Some of the guys on 80s on 8s, you kind of sound like them.
Yes. A couple of the women, too. And this is what Nina Blackwood sounds like now, guys, if you listen to that channel.
True.
On Sirius XM, she sounds like this, right? Just for different reasons, okay, than the reason that I do today. Steve@stevedeace.com. That's how you can email the program. DEACE. You can like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter @Steve Deace Show. I'm starting to enjoy this actually a little bit now. Look for Steve Deace on MeWe, Gab, and Parler. Follow @Steve Deace Show on Twitter. I'm really going to be enjoying the angry text and stuff I get from Blaze Management later that I should have stayed home today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll enjoy that too. You can also go to, what else? Oh, if you like censorship, go to youtube.com/Steve Deace or rumble.com/Steve Deace Show. You're still not into it, huh?
No.
No?
I mean, well, I'm just not going to elevate it. I can tolerate it.
I don't know, man.
I'm not going to anoint it. No.
I kind of feel like I could do a little against the wind right now. I could go a little Bob Seger for you right now, I think.
You should do that right now.
Even when you're healthy, you talk about, that song's not in my key. I'm like, what's your key?
Whatever key this is, I think I could do it right now. Whatever key it is.
I don't think I've ever heard your voice crack. I think that's going to happen today.
You think it's going to happen? The voice is going to crack today? I guess we will find out. But before we get to all of that, here is Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by that feeling when you don't have to wear a mask at an indoor event when everybody else has to because you're an elitist. Yes, the Oscars were last night, and the movie Nomadland won the award for Best Picture. Nomadland is the gratuitously depressing tale of a Nevada woman who lost everything, including her husband in the Great Recession, and travels the American West, meeting other nomads who are dying. Apparently, it's Hollywood's salute to the forgotten American, and it's only slightly more endearing than Nikki Haley's salute to the forgotten American over the weekend, which apparently includes transgenderism as a conservative value. Responding to someone laughing at a photo of her and newly announced California gubernatorial candidate Caitlyn Jenner, the 2024 wannabe said, quote, "Interesting. I don't find it funny. Caitlyn came to see me at the UN and I appreciate her conservative views. I will continue to think that the Republican Party is one of conservative views by all people regardless of the demographics. To me, that's not funny. It's America." Joe Biden announced his goal of cutting U.S. emissions by 50% over the next decade during a global warming summit of world leaders. As the UK Daily Mail pointed out, in order to theoretically do this, Americans' diets would have to be impacted, with Americans only able to consume 4 pounds of red meat per year. By the way, Biden, during the aforementioned summit, appears to be the only world leader on this video teleconference wearing 2 masks. Checking in on the Branch Covidian cult, the New York Times produced this 6-minute mock featurette bemoaning critics of public health officials.
There's no glitzy ceremony for any of these people. There never was. Instead, they're getting a lot of this.
This mask mandate is ridiculous.
He doesn't know what he's talking about.
She needs to be fired.
And you, doctor, are going to be arrested for crimes against humanity.
We'd better show them some recognition and fast.
As of the time of this production, the video had all of 20 retweets and 52 likes on Twitter. Speaking of the Branch Covidians, it's been 2 weeks now since the director of the CDC told the state of Michigan it should enter another lockdown due to a sharp rise in cases at the time. Michigan has not locked down. 2 weeks have passed and cases are sharply declining. Good news, unless you're a toddler in the state, that's because the state's health department has enacted a mask mandate for 2 to 4-year-olds. Learning Chinese today. Today's phrase is, today's date is April 26th, 2021. Michigan men are dead.
今天的日期是2021年4月26日。
And now Daily Defiance, where the star is you and the story is taking back your country. Rachel in Michigan isn't afraid to enter the Meijer grocery store with her 4-year-old daughter without a mask. We'll go next to COVID-stan Illinois, where Andrew says even with underlying health conditions, he's never been mortally afraid of COVID since he knows God is bigger, but still wore a mask to make others feel good. Now he says he's done with the mask and he does his shopping at Sam's Club without one, as you can see here. And then there's Taylor in Dallas who says, had to get tires replaced today and Costco said 1.5 hour wait. You're not supposed to sit on their furniture per CDC recommendations. I said screw it. Happily sat there the whole time on this comfy couch, ate a hot dog, and caught up on Friday's show. Thanks for your submissions. I see them all, and they're still coming in droves. If you have a submission, tweet them to me at DaceProducer or hashtag DailyDefiance, or email them to dailydefiance1776@gmail.com. Moving on, the first full-fledged sellout indoor event in over a year with masks optional took place in Jacksonville, Florida this weekend as UFC 261 took to the octagon, and what a sight that is to behold. Update on white liberal women.
So, during slavery times, slaves did not get to eat the same things as their masters. They got the scraps that no one wanted. Chitterlings. So when you go to the store and you buy a piece of meat as a white person, you are actively taking away a piece of meat that could be being enjoyed by a survivor of ancestral slavery. Eating meat is not only racist, but it's also anti-Semitic.
A Pew Research survey from 2020, that's just now coming into the light, finds over 50% of white liberal women under the age of 30 say they've been told they have a mental health condition by a healthcare provider. Not to worry, though, because Congresswoman Ilhan Omar says,
"This is not going to be the country of white people."
A new ABC News Washington Post poll finds fewer Americans support reparations for descendants of slaves than they did at this point last year. Overall, 28% support reparations, down 3 from last year, while 65% did not. That's up 2. Amongst the black population, 15% fewer support reparations than did at this point last year at 67%, while 27% oppose reparations. That's up 10% from last year. Math is Racist update. The state of Virginia is moving to eliminate all accelerated math courses prior to the 11th grade because racism. And finally, the state of masculinity in America.
Dr. Fauci, give us vaccines. Help all the people who have been quarantined. We'll wear our masks and we'll have to stay distant. We'll wash our hands and we'll be more resistant. Fauci, yes? Promise us, please. We'll have a cure that can fight off this disease. Restrictions will lift with some ease. Dr. Fauci, don't forget me.
And that's what happened while we were away.
Do you think that Darwin was right about at least a few things? Like culling herds, natural selection. Do you think he was right at least about a few things? Maybe.
Well, not survival of the fittest, though, because the unfit seem to be ruling the earth.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Aaron's montage. Let me see if talking quieter will help. Does that sound better?
It is a little better.
Than trying to orate a little more? Is that better?
It does.
Okay.
A certain Delilah vibe to the show now.
All right. Yeah.
Aaron just
realized that was not a compliment. Yeah, thank you.
My favorite thing about this show is quickly becoming Aaron's just like open snickering at things that he finds amusing.
All right. Hey, we have warned you about home title theft in the past. This is where cyber thieves remove you from your home's title, and then they become the new owner. That's why you want to go to Home Title Lock, because Facebook just had a massive data breach. How's that? Does that
really
sound
good.
better?
Yeah.
Is that better? Okay. Facebook just had a massive data breach, 500 million accounts exposed to cyber thieves. We'll be playing 2 for Tuesday right here, by the way, on Classic Rock. 500 million accounts exposed to cyber thieves thanks to Facebook. And now the FBI says they've got everything they need in order to take over as the new owner of your home. Name, address, personal information, it's all out there. The thieves forge your signature on a quitclaim deed stating that you have sold your home to them. Then they leave you with the debt, maybe even foreclosure and eviction. Why did John Bonham die so young? So do what I did and protect your home's title with Home Title Lock. Go to HometitleLock.com. Register your address to see if you're already a victim. They haven't played Stairway to Heaven live since he passed. Did you guys know that? You can go to HometitleLock.com right now. Sign up for 30 free days of protection during this high-risk breach. Again, go to HometitleLock.com. Register your address. See if you're already a victim and you don't yet know it. And then while you're there, use the promo code RADIO to get 30 free days of protection. All right, how was that?
Oh, that data breach and cyber thieves have never sounded less threatening. I think you've just made people feel like this. Your voice is the embodiment of this product.
Am I the soothing presence in the room for once?
I think people are they're already purchasing as we speak because of what you've accomplished there with that tone.
Hey, coming up in the overtime today. I'm starting to dig this now. Okay. It's just, other than this, I feel fine. That is what is so weird about this. Okay. Coming up in the overtime today, we're going to get into the first round of 100 days approval rating polling for Joe Biden. And it's not good, at least historically speaking. If you're Joe Biden, the only two presidents in the modern era that have ranked anywhere near where he currently does, both didn't get a second term. That would be Gerald Ford and his predecessor, Donald Trump. So we'll get into that in the overtime today. You can become a Blaze TV subscriber at blazetv.com/Deace. That's where you can go right now. Get a discounted subscription to Blaze TV. Todd, stop. You're making me self-conscious. Okay. I know what you're doing over there. Stop it. Okay.
You're doing it. I think we might need to go back to the other one.
blazetv.com/Deace. That's where you can go and get a discounted subscription to Blaze TV today.
This sounds like the Alec Baldwin SNL skit at this point. And
little sweaty balls.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And we will be we'll be posting those. That later today. We'll record it right after the show, right here on NPR. All things considered. Thank you. Let's get to Wits and Aaron's overtime, shall we?
We shall.
All right. Where do you guys want to start? Because I could start in about 4 places. Where would you like to begin?
Let's do the Pew Research thing on white liberal women.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's start with that. Recap that for us again, and then let's comment.
So there's a Pew survey that was done and released last year, and amid the pandemic and all the headlines, it was back in March when they released this. Amid all of this, it got lost in the shuffle, but it's just now coming back into light. White liberal women, over 50% of them, I think it was between 54 and 56% of them, have reported that a healthcare provider or professional has informed them that they may have a mental illness. That is by far the most amongst any demographic. By far the most amongst any demographic.
Why do you think that is? How much of that do you think is a contrivance? How much of it do you think is legitimate?
Because at the heart of progressivism, that's what we're talking about here. Liberalism is the mainstream's way of talking about progressivism for the most part. Progressivism in and of itself is a mental illness. 100 years ago, if you would have told the run-of-the-mill woman in this country or really anywhere in the West that not only were they equals with men, they were the same, that would have probably been diagnosed to some degree, depending on what way it manifested itself. That would have been diagnosed as a mental illness. They are not the same. And so if you have an entire generation of women, and we're talking about under 30 years of age, that's something I left out just now, under 30 years of age, being inculcated, being brainwashed into not only saying that you have equal value, which is something that we would all agree to, but you are the same as men, that then opens up a Pandora's box of mental illness. So not only if you're just a feminist who buys into this, a radical feminist who buys into this, you are being brainwashed with this from the time you're born, really, until your dying day, or at least until you take a red pill. I just saw a couple of tweets over the weekend from parents, and I think they were maybe even Facebook posts as well, bemoaning the fact that their daughters were starting to now prefer, their young daughters were now starting to prefer playing with pink toys, with princess toys, even though they had invested in gender-neutral toys to play with, because they didn't want to go in down the road of gender stereotypes. That's the example of what I'm talking about. So that's the big picture view of why that is the case, to answer your question.
How much do you think COVID is a factor in this?
COVID?
Buying into all of the panic, all of the isolation that goes along with it, the separation from loved ones, from your way of life. How much do you think that's a factor in it? I would view that, by the way, to borrow a phrase, guys, a variant of what you were just saying, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the same worldview that you just described would be more inclined to gobble up all the various panic porn that's fed to you by the spirit of the age, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And it would be fascinating to see how this poll turns out post-COVID as opposed to when it came out, which was pre-COVID. But it certainly does. I mean, we talk about the Karen phenomenon that was rampant throughout all of this. That I think that would be. I think that definitely ties into this. You look at the number of people. If you would have asked prior to COVID, the number of white women or just white suburbanites in your communities, and we had all sorts of conversations around this, around the election as well. The number of people in your community who are mentally, well, let's not go down that road. The number of people in your community who would turn you in because you're not adequately woke enough or you're not adequately following the science enough. Prior to COVID, what do you think that number would have been? And then after COVID, what do you think that number would have been? COVID really, again, revealed what the survey already said. It's just nobody paid attention to it because it was, kind of low on the list of things back then. COVID was just a great revealer, in the same fashion as Donald Trump was a great revealer of a number of institutions for the last 4 years.
I think the dam probably really broke about 10 years ago on this. And ironically, it was Sheryl Sandberg of Facebook fame, was it not, who wrote that period that made waves you can't have it all?
Right.
And when I was working at the Des Moines Register at the time, I did a localized version of that, interviewed young professional women about what that meant to them. It was actually a really good story. I did some roundtable discussions, and there were a lot of liberal women, but there was a reasonable discussion about the balance of it all. And I think that was a all-in moment on the table. And those who decided to not ask serious questions about that ended up sprinting towards being the case study of what Aaron just laid out.
So in other words, when you go against the laws of nature and nature's God, if you violate the natural law, if you break it, it breaks you. That's kind of what I hear you guys saying, right?
Yeah. I mean, it becomes, to some degree, it becomes the Wanda Maximoff effect, where at least she understood what she wanted. There is still an nature. It's not the only thing that drives women and that motivates them in life. But Wanda and WandaVision, that show that we talked about,
yeah, it is.
She is driven to do some evil things because of this desire that was left unfilled. Now, it was because of external factors in a lot of respects that she was unable to fulfill those desires. But I think when you take a look at overall at the state of womanhood and what they're facing, especially with feminism, I think that drives them to do and to believe a lot of things that are quite hideous because it's going against one of their natures.
So let's connect a dot here for a second based on what you two are just saying. You said that this poll, its primary data was pre-COVID, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Is what you're is this where the Karen effect came from? Meaning, a lot of women who denied that aspect of their nature to buy into the lies of the culture. Suddenly the virus comes along and that nurturing instinct comes in and they go Wanda Maximoff. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's an overcompensation. It's the chance now, hey, I can do for other people what I never did for myself or my own family or a husband. You're the proxies. We are the extras in this morality play as COVID gives them the meaning that they didn't get from other aspects of their life they were supposed to. So they take it out on us the way she takes it out on the bystanders there in that town in New Jersey. What are your thoughts on that?
I can see part of that being in there, but it's such a Frankenstein monsters version. You will. My tenderness comes in the form of you will kneel before Zod sort of thing. There's no way that level of compensation.
How many villains believe they're the villain?
Right. Well, that's my point. There's no way that level of compensation can ultimately be borne out in a way that's efficacious. But nonetheless, there it is.
Aaron, what do you think?
I tend to agree. That that's maybe what's driving this, at least the psychology anyway, because if you're told that the way you're designed is not in fact the way you are designed, but yet you still, because you bear the image of God in the way that you were designed, you still have that driving force within you. Eventually, you're a walking, talking contradiction. Mm-hmm. Now, whether it's because of your own choice buying into the lies of feminism, or because it's just the way that you've been brainwashed by a generation of brainwashing in government schools and in culture, eventually you become a walking, talking contradiction. Mm-hmm. And that is borne out in a number of horrifying ways. And I don't know if we can turn the page a little bit here as well, talking about the Michigan toddler mask mandate. Mm-hmm. Be more like that woman in Daily Defiance. Now, I'm sorry to say, if you look at our analytics, some of our analytics, and you lift up the hood, you'll see that a lot of people watch this show on YouTube who reside in the state of Michigan. Now, I've gotten a ton, Steve, of submissions. Lots and lots of submissions. A ton from California, a lot from New York, a lot from Pennsylvania.
You mean Defiant submissions?
For Daily Defiance.
Yeah.
I've only gotten a few from Michigan. And I looked this morning, I did a cursory glance. If you're a dude and you sent something from Michigan, you know who you are. I'm not talking about you. I've not seen any men from Michigan send anything yet. If you are a dude in Michigan and you're masking up your toddler to go to Costco, to go to Lowe's, to help out dad as the little buddy, no. That's enough of this. The date is April 26th, 2021. If you're still following these guidelines in Michigan,
while your governor gallivants off to Florida, while her health minister does the same thing,
we can't help you.
Yeah, I just don't know what's happened to my former home state. It's mind numbing, and you know that there's somebody right now masking their 2-year-old up at a Costco, yes, some bro dude, right? Who turned off their favorite bro dude podcast, and they're like ready, yeah. They're ready for the Civil War, right? As they make sure that their toddler's mask goes over their nose in the Costco, right?
Yeah. What
are your thoughts on that?
Well, Michigan itself, sprinting ahead with this is a level of willful tyranny now. I've talked all the time about invincible ignorance, but she's just messing with you.
Meaning that you've already proven in real time your mitigation efforts don't work.
Not work.
She flaunted your own mitigation efforts in your face.
Yes.
Her health minister did the same thing and then comes back and says, cover the face of your toddler, right?
Yeah. So she's going Loki on you. You were made to be ruled, Michigan, and apparently you're cool with that.
Really quick here before we get out of time, and we have like a minute. Where's the decline in popularity of reparations coming from, do you think? What's the origin for that?
I don't know. It's a mystery wrapped inside of an enigma.
I don't know. I'm asking.
People aren't looking forward to. I mean, you saw what happened immediately after the Chauvin trial. It's like, if you can't accept this as justice, I ain't playing ball anymore.
So you think people are, because it's across every demographic, that in general, people are just tired of the racialism, that this is showing some erosion with that narrative in general?
Yeah, and that's hopeful.
Let's hope you're right about that. We'll come back. Bob Vander Plaats will join us here next. You know, given the times in which we live, every law-abiding citizen must know how to defend your family before, during a self-defense incident. That's why you want to take Patriot Academy's Constitutional Defense Course. It is hosted by our friends over at Front Sight Firearms Training Institute in Nevada. Rick Green with Wall Builders, he hosts this. Our friend Daniel Horowitz has done this a couple of times with his audience to rave reviews. It's the premier firearms and self-defense training organization in the nation. They train approximately 50,000 people each year at their 550-acre complex out there just outside of Las Vegas. So you'll get physical training with firearms, but then also intellectual training afterwards with the Constitution. You don't want to miss it. Right now, they're offering 90% off the training. Now, you got to handle your logistics, but the training itself, a 90% discount if you want to go either May 30th or June 6th, a 90% discount at constitutioncoach.com. Again, that's constitutioncoach.com. Get that big discount at constitutioncoach.com. Guys, I've gotten a couple of emails from ladies that are digging this voice. All right.
Sure you have.
No, it's happening. It's happening right now. It is.
I had this voice 2 weeks ago.
Did you?
I did. And then it went a little bit deeper into my chest, and then I actually got a productive cough after that. Never had a fever, never had a big deal. So you'll get through this. I don't think it's allergies, by the way. I'm sitting close to you.
Yeah.
I think this is the real deal. And, it is a good voice. I mean, it's a good voice on you. You ought to try this more often. So you and Tucker Carlson, this would have been a big hit.
So you think that it happened at almost the exact same time it happens every year? With these symptoms almost every year. Is this the first time you guys have sat here and my voice has sounded like this?
Well, don't call me Dr. Fauci, but let me do a little diagnosis. I think it's more than allergies.
Okay.
But let's talk.
I'm pretty confident it's allergies. Pretty confident. It's just the allergies. Anyway, you want to talk presidential politics?
Sure, let's talk presidential politics.
So a couple of people have announced trips to Iowa, right? Tom Cotton out of Arkansas. Mm-hmm. Nikki Haley, the former governor of South Carolina, former UN ambassador for Donald Trump. Let's start with her. I want to show you a couple tweets that happened over the weekend. Okay. This tweet was released of Nikki Haley with the mentally ill Bruce Jenner, yucking it up. Dean Cain, the actor, actually tweeted in response to this, "Okay, you got me. I laughed." And then to Nikki, and then to Dean Cain, Nikki Haley tweeted this: "I don't find it funny. Caitlyn came to see me at the UN, and I appreciated her conservative views. I will continue to think that the Republican Party is one of conservative views by all people, regardless of the demographics. To me, that's not funny. It's America." Is that the America you're trying to conserve out there, Bob Vander Plaats?
Can I tell you, that response of her to that tweet is going to make it very difficult, I think, in a primary cycle, in an Iowa caucus cycle. Mm-hmm. I've seen the Republican Party, the GOP, take some hits as recently as this morning for having her come to speak because of some things she said about President Trump.
He said.
She
talking about Haley.
I'm talking about Haley.
Okay.
About what
she's
said.
A she. Yes, correct. Yes.
About President Trump.
We got to clarify these things nowadays, unfortunately.
I think the thing that Steve stands to note here with Ambassador Haley coming to Iowa and Senator Cotton coming to Sioux Center, Iowa. We'll talk about him in just a minute. Mm-hmm. As well as we'll be announcing, not yet today, but we'll be announcing here very shortly, 2 or 3 others who are coming to our leadership summit. Iowa is still going to launch this process. The Republican National Committee might be making up its mind. The Democrat National Committee might be making up its mind. Whoever might be making up their mind. But the candidates have made up their mind. They're coming to Iowa. And I believe even it sends a message to, say, former President Trump, that 2024 is already game on. These people, I think, with Ambassador Haley coming here, Cotton coming here, others coming here, others wanting to come here, is showing a thing that they really don't believe President Trump will be coming, or it might be, as you and I have talked about before, could this be the shadow primary underneath the Trump cloud that I want to be his VP in case he does run? So Ambassador Haley, she didn't call me for counsel in regards to what should I do here. But I don't think that is how you want to make your first impression in regards to a tweet like that with Bruce Jenner now running for governor of California as a woman.
The next time somebody accuses you of not believing in science, I've decided our comeback just needs to be, can you tell me who won the 1976 Olympic decathlon? Just come back with that. Mm-hmm. Just ask that question. Who won it?
Bruce Jenner.
Yeah. I mean, can you tell me who won that thing?
Yeah, I remember watching it. I'm that old. I can remember watching Bruce Jenner winning.
Bruce Jenner got us to eat wheat, plain wheat, for breakfast. We ate it. Mm-hmm. We ate wheat, guys, like in North Korea. We ate wheat for breakfast because they put him on the damn box. Mm-hmm. That's how inspirational a figure he was at the time. So Tom Cotton, everybody's got to have a niche, right? What's their lane?
Sure.
Where do they fit in? So it's pretty obvious that Nikki Haley is the professional classes, or I don't even know if we even use the word establishment anymore, but she's the professional consultant classes candidate, right? So she's running in a lot of the same lanes as a Marco Rubio type. Where's Tom Cotton running, do you think?
I think Tom Cotton's probably trying to run in that Trump lane if Trump does not run again, meaning a little bit of Ted Cruz lane as well. I'm a military guy. I've come to serve in the U.S. Senate. I'm not doing politics as usual. I'm calling people's bluffs. People like Tom Cotton for that. Tom Cotton, on the other hand, not saying that he would not have accepted the GOP's invitation to speak at the Lincoln dinner. I believe this is the Lincoln dinner that Nikki Haley's going to speak at. But where's he going in Iowa? He's going up to Sioux County, Sioux Center, Iowa.
Explain to our audience why that matters.
Sioux County is, if it's not the most Republican county in the entire United States, it's one of the most Republican counties in the United States. It's by far the most Republican county in all of Iowa. And so by going there and trying to say, I'm putting a foothold in here because I'd like to run up the numbers. This is where Ted Cruz ran up the numbers. This is where Mike Huckabee ran up the numbers. This is where Rick Santorum ran up the numbers. And so when you run up the numbers in areas like that, you definitely want to go visit that if you're a prospective candidate, because it obviously bodes pretty well.
Who else is running in their lanes? So we mentioned for Haley, Rubio's running in that lane. If he decides to run, what would be kind of fascinating is for Rubio, it would kind of be a reverse of 4 years or 8 years ago, where he was the young whippersnapper in that establishment lane coming after Jeb Bush, and now she is, and he's kind of the Jeb Bush, right?
Yeah, you see, and I look at that, even when you say that, because I think Ambassador Haley is kind of in a lane all by herself right now. I think she's the most establishment candidate that's out there. I think Marco Rubio's not there. I think Marco Rubio is a couple lanes over, but he's not as far as, say, a Ted Cruz, a Tom Cotton, a Josh Hawley, those type of guys. Mike Pence might be more in that Rubio type lane, maybe edging a little bit over here, but kind of in that Rubio lane. Secretary Pompeo, he's going to kind of be in that lane, say, with a Tom Cotton, a Ted Cruz, those types. Because again, listen, I didn't come here just to mark time. I came here to make a difference. He's shown that as Secretary of State. He's shown that when he was the head of the CIA. He's shown that when he was in Congress. And so I think you got Pompeo, you got Tom Cotton, you got Josh Hawley, you got Ted Cruz. There may be others like that. Then also you got a Mike Pence, a Marco Rubio, and maybe some in that lane. And then you got Nikki Haley. And then Governor Noem. We haven't even mentioned Kristi Noem. I think she wants to be in several lanes. I think she wants to be I'm in the pro-Trump lane, the very conservative lane. But I kind of have been in Congress and I've been a governor, and I kind of know what's best in regards to males and females playing in sports. So I think she kind of blends some lanes.
So history of Iowa has shown, particularly for first-time candidates, trying to run in multiple lanes does not work.
Doesn't bode well.
Right? Why does that not work?
Well, you need to inspire a base. You need a base to rally around you. As soon as you can get a base rallying around you, you have a true opportunity to now advance, say, in the Iowa caucuses. That being said, take a look at the numbers I pointed out. There's a lot of people over in this lane here that want to be with the Tom Cottons, the Ted Cruzes, the Josh Hawleys, those types. Nikki Haley, as I said, is kind of in a lane by herself. If she can inspire that, that's also proven because you got John McCain, right? You've got Mitt Romney, those guys then get elevated. So she may be going, listen, there's plenty over there. I want to be over here in this lane. I think that's going to be my lane to try to come out of this thing. So, but I think if you're going to try to win the Iowa caucuses, you need to focus on where's your base, where can you inspire them, and will they rally around you on caucus night?
I can't believe it, but it seems like Nikki Haley is prepared to run a path to the Iowa caucuses by actually trying to get Bruce Jenner elected as the Republican in California. It is our establishment, I fall into bad habits sometimes. Sure. Is the Republican establishment gonna really go down this road? I have to ask these crazy, bizarro world questions now, because I can't even, in my mind, I can't think of one good reason to dismiss. I think they would rather do that than campaign with you on just about anything, Bob Vander Plaats, and I think you know that.
Yeah. Well, here's what I think, Todd, in response to that. I mean, first of all, it's a reasonable question for an unreasonable approach, right? So Bruce Jenner is running as Caitlyn Jenner, governor of California, and you can talk a lot about whatever that is. The LGBT community came out against Bruce Jenner running for governor of California. Okay. So I'm just saying, I don't see what that's going to gain you. And the other part of it is, I think, where conservatives are today is they want to conserve something. Male, female, constitutional government, limited government, religious liberty, those types of things. And to say, listen, I don't care what it is, we're all just one America. And well, there's a lot of people preaching that as well. They just happen to be in a different party and run in a different caucus.
But Nikki Haley clearly doesn't feel like she tripped into some cute little picture. I mean, she doubled down and tried to spike the football in Dean Cain's face. I mean, she clearly doesn't care about conserving a damn thing as it applies to the traditional base of the Republican Party.
And part of that, Todd, is what I mentioned earlier. She may see this lane is open. And if this lane is open, why not go for it? If I go for it and there's no competition, why not go for that?
I get that, but here's the thing. How many people are still left in that lane, do you think?
I don't think there's many at all. I don't believe there's many at all. Now, we'll have to wait and see. Now, there was a time not that long ago, even on this show, where I believe we all agreed, hey, if Nikki Haley is the establishment candidate, we've come a long ways. I mean, because she's not near what the establishment candidate used to be. This tweet kind of shows you a little bit different take of a Nikki Haley. Yeah. But that maybe also send a message to you, Todd, maybe to me. This lane is open. I'm running in this lane. And maybe she believes there's enough people out there who got a Mitt Romney, who got somebody else to say, that lane's open. I think I can be there.
Well, Aaron's mental illness poll, I think we need to worry about a little bit more than just the leftist side of the fence, because this is suicide that she and Kristi Noem seemingly are happy to commit. Yeah. This is insane.
Well, the thing of it is that no one can out-woke another person. And so, we'd like to get things back. And I told you this the other day on the show, is that when I was having a visit with someone who didn't take a strong stand for the institution of marriage. But now they're all concerned about the Equality Act. So that's why you need to take a strong stand for marriage. So when you start unraveling, you just keep unraveling. So now we're wondering what's a male, what's a female, what's it going to be next? You almost think, is there any other ground we could cede for that?
Is there any hill to die on for some of these people other than just don't be a Democrat? Doesn't matter what you believe, who you are. That really the only hill to die on is just don't be a Democrat.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. And I think when we've often said, tolerance is a one-way street. I think, and I saw the tweet over after Bruce Jenner said he was running for governor of California as a woman, that the LGBT was not supporting that. I thought, it's a one-way street, man. Just because you want to claim yourself as a girl and you say, I'm going to run for governor, I'm going to elevate the trans issue, whatever it is, LGBT is like, absolutely not. We're not going down that road. It's a one-way street. And so that's where I think, and I think a President Trump showed us that. that if you can rally your base, they can get you to win. And you can actually do some things when you're in office. Do I think President Trump probably should have done some other things as well? Yes. But he did more than others that we've elected. And now it comes to the other thing, Steve, with 2024, is what does President Trump do? I think what you're seeing with the amount of activity, Nikki Haley coming here, Tom Cotton coming here, others coming for the leadership summit, others beginning to knock on the door. Secretary Pompeo was just in our offices right in this building at the Family Leader. Mm-hmm. I think what they're showing is that I don't think Trump's running in 2024. So I'm running in 2024. And I think what's going to really be a strong play is, when does Ted Cruz, who won the Iowa caucuses in 2016, when does a Marco Rubio, who had a strong showing in the Iowa caucuses in 2016, mm-hmm. and both still have a segment of support here, both Rubio and Cruz do. When do they say, I'm coming back to Iowa? So I think that'd be a key signal to watch out for.
Bob, good to see you. Thank you, man.
Good to see you. Love the voice. And congratulations, Todd, on Ainsley.
Thank you very much.
Positive.
If you are struggling with inflammation in the body, this is pain that comes from chronic inflammation, not injury. If you've got an injury, get medical treatment. But if it's inflammation, make sure you get something that confronts that inflammation, like Omega XL. I use this each and every day. It will confront the inflammation that's causing your pain, whether it's painful, stiff, ache, joints, could be knees, back, neck. For me, it's a left hip flexor, whatever it is for you. The topical creams, the pain relievers, they work in terms of treating symptoms, but you want to actually confront the inflammation that's causing those symptoms before it causes something more serious. Try it right now. Buy one, get one free at omegaxl.com/Steve. Again, that's omegaxl.com/Steve, or give them a call, 800-844-4888. 800-844-4888. Back with Hour 2 in a moment. And we're back with Hour 2 as we power through an allergy handicapped episode of the Steve Deace Show. Steve Deace here with Todd and Aaron McIntyre. I don't know, it feels like it's getting a little stronger now, doesn't it? A little bit?
I think once you found the proper tone, you found a wave you could ride. As it just kind of gave up the ghost on the normal oration level, and now slowly but surely it's kind of there you go, strengthening a little bit. All right, let us know what you think about what we think. Steve@stevedeace.com. That is the email address, DEACE. You can also like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Steve Deace Show. Like us on MeWe, Gab, and Parler as well. If you like censored clips of the program, and who doesn't like censorship these days, go to youtube.com/Steve Deace or rumble.com/Steve Deace Show. If you are a podcast listener, thank you very much. We appreciate you. We would ask, though, that you would show your appreciation for us by hitting the subscribe button, as well as giving us a 5-star review if you haven't done those things already. And today we'll definitely test just how much you like this show with what's going on with the audio presentation on the podcast. But thank you to all of you that have sent us those 5-star reviews already. We appreciate them. We have gotten thousands upon thousands of them. Please keep those coming. I'm told that there is some algorithmic benefit. I cannot verify this, but I'm hoping that's the case. All right. Let's get to Hour 2, brought to you by our friends over at Rough Greens. We've been talking about Rough Greens for quite a while now. It's this supplement powder that you spray on your dog's food. And when we say supplement, it's the same thing that we have to use these days. There's a reason we buy so many supplements these days. It's because a lot of those vitamins, minerals, nutrients, etc., have been stripped out of our food for mass production, mass consumption. And the same thing goes on with our pets. That's why they need a supplement now. And Rough Greens is what you're looking for. It puts all the good stuff your pet needs back into its diet. But you may be wondering, hey, what if my pet doesn't like it when I stir it into the food? Well, here's one way to find out. We'll give you the bag for free. The 14-day Jumpstart bag we've told you about now for well over a year. We will give you that bag for free. You just pay for the shipping, but you'll get the bag for free at roughgreens.com. RUFF is how it's spelled, roughgreens.com, or give them a call, 833-ROUGH-DOG. That's 833-ROUGH-DOG. Again, the bag is free. You just pay for the shipping. So we had originally intended today to bring you the third and final installment of a video series that we have been putting together
on how COVID has changed the world moving forward. And the third installment was scheduled to run at this time, but we made the decision with the current state of my voice that maybe today's not the right day to put out a video that we're hoping activists across the country will share, right?
Yeah, when you're kind of taking a decline in health one way or the other, no matter what it is, those optics probably weren't going to play too well.
Understood. Understood. So you guys decided to call an audible at the beginning of the program. We decided to go ahead and do our traditional Monday town hall, Ask Me Anything, but with a twist. You guys are actually going to get to ask Todd and Aaron anything. And then I may chime in every now and then if the voice holds up and you guys say something dumb that I think I need to save the show from. But other than that, the floor is now yours.
We will begin with INSOC prisoner from room 101, who asks if each of you could 100% restore an amendment to the Constitution to its original interpretation or enforcement, which would it be and why? Now, I think for me, it's not so much an amendment, but Article 1, Section 3, which would mean getting rid of the 17th Amendment. I would change the 17th Amendment to its original form, which was not existence, in existence, if that's even a word. I would get rid of the 17th Amendment to where state bodies would then elect U.S. senators instead of direct election of U.S. senators. I just think it would be hilarious. It would be harder for special interest money to pay off more people. I think that would be fun. I'm not saying anything would definitely change, but anytime you get the opportunity to put your influence closer to home, I think you take that opportunity. So I think it would be Section 1, Article 3. So it's not so much an amendment that I would restore as much as it is, I would get rid of the 17th Amendment. Todd?
Yeah, mine would be the same. Listen, right now we just have that one incestuous smoke-filled room up there in Washington, D.C. And as Steve laid out in the introduction of Fauci and Bargan, the beautiful chaos that the founders envisioned for accountability at multiple levels of government, that was strip mined as it applies to the Senate with the 17th Amendment, because every local legislature is its own smoke-filled room, but to the degree that they are different, competing with each other, there was a level of accountability in there that is just flat out gone now, and in no way holds the current U.S. Senate accountable. The current disease affects right and left alike. It would be interesting to see. It wouldn't be a panacea, but it's the one that always easily comes to mind, and it's a shame, and ultimately C.S. Lewis ultimately talked about how you in order to fix things, you have to return and go back to the beginning again. You're already so far off of course. Course correcting from where you are is harder than going back to the beginning. And the simple fact is this is an amendment that happened when you, at the beginning of the 20th century, as many others did, with utopian flights of fancy. And reversing it would be an admission that we've spent 100 years plus of failed visions of the future.
Moving on.
I would go with the Fifth Amendment.
The Fifth Amendment.
No person shall be denied life, liberty, or property without due process of law. I think that applies not just to the life issue, but I think it applies to COVID restrictions.
Yep.
And everything that we're dealing with right now. So I would go with the Fifth Amendment.
Corey Tacker says, what did you think of Falcon and the Winter Soldier finale? I have not watched this, so Todd and Steve, if you want to get into this.
We will discuss that tomorrow for Pop Culture Tuesday. So
yeah.
Tomorrow
we'll
you'll get to find
go.
the answer to that question. Yes.
Cliffhanger.
Jim Pine says, what are both of your best case scenarios for the Packers and Chiefs for the NFL draft? I used to follow draft stuff fairly carefully and closely. I don't do that much just because I've become less invested, unless your name is Patrick Mahomes, I've become less invested in the personalities and really the people behind the NFL, because I just don't care that much about them. Just give me a good player. I just see them as players. I'm sorry. I just do, because this is entertainment to me. So I don't really pay much attention to off-season acquisitions, all of the draft stuff. I will say though, on Friday, the Chiefs made a pretty big signing of an offensive tackle from Baltimore. Orlando Brown.
It was a trade, actually.
Yeah.
He is your first round pick, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, they acquired via trade Orlando Brown, which I thought was a great deal at first. Finally, we're making some repairs on the offensive line, which definitely were needed. And then I found out, did you see the fine print? He has 1 year left on his deal.
Mm-hmm.
And you're giving up a first round pick, multiple picks for that. That's a bad trade. So he's basically, like you said, he's basically the first round pick. So I guess maybe some help for the defense in the second round, but the draft is about the future. Free agency is about the current. And so I don't know. It's always been a crapshoot.
But you could franchise him a year from now.
True.
Yeah. True. And remember, the cap will go up quite a bit a year from now too.
I think that was a pretty steep price.
I agree with that.
I am not a fan of the draft. It kind of bores me to tears, and the Packers haven't been particularly dynamic drafters. There's just not a lot of big splash for them from year to year, and they're usually a pretty good team, so that ability to splash is minimal. But then they also seem to like try to keep it as vanilla as possible beyond what is even achievable or recommended for any given draft at the Packers where they're drafting. So I've got multiple reasons to just see who they got. Aaron Rodgers is our quarterback. We always make the playoffs. We often underachieve in the playoffs. Rinse, wash, repeat.
We can predict it will piss Aaron Rodgers off, whoever it is.
You see, you know the drill.
I mean, for 10 years, they've done nothing that has really pleased him whatsoever in the first round of the draft. So it'll tick him off. We know that.
Sure.
Yeah.
You want to get in on that with the Lions at all? Just pain.
You know, I'm struggling because I really like what the management is. They have whole new management there now. They brought Chris Spielman in as basically a team president, but they didn't make the mistake they made. They didn't make the mistake they made with Matt Millen. He's not actually running the franchise as a rookie GM. They went out and actually got a general manager. And it was the guy that essentially was the head of the Rams scouting department. I mean, the Lions college scouting department's been one of the weakest in the NFL. So you get a guy that comes from one of the best college scouting departments in the NFL. They brought in John Dorsey, who used to be with your team and has had successful drafts with a lot of other franchises to kind of help mentor him. I like the decisions that they're making. There's a self-awareness there. They understand that they have to start over. It's not good just to go 7-9 and 9-7 every year, which they've basically done until the Matt Patricia era. That's what they've done, really, the entire Matt Stafford era. You know, there's a 11-5 and a 5-11 outlier, but most of the Matt Stafford era, they were 7-9 to 9-7. And they realized you can get just stuck there forever in the NFL, that you kind of have to start over to build back up, and they're doing that. So I'm really torn because I like if I didn't know the history and if I weren't emotionally attached, I would really like what they're doing right now. And so I am emotionally attached and I do know their history, so I don't know how to analyze it. But I think what's likely to happen is that they're going to trade down to acquire more picks, which is what I would do. Now, if, say, Penny Sewell was on the board, I would rethink that because I think they have a pretty good offensive line, and you add him and you might have right away one of the better offensive lines in the NFL, and that gives you some identity to build around for your team. But they need depth and talent. So if I were them, I would trade down, and I think that's what they'll do.
I'm sorry, Steve. I mean, Michigan football has turned you into a Pollyanna on the Lions. This next one is a good question, I think. A bifurcated fish star says,
wow, that guy's smart.
Yeah. If you could prevent only one thing from being destroyed or created by the left, what would it be? So he's saying things like critical race theory or critical theory, religious liberty, etc. This is a tough question to answer, I think, in my estimation, because it's hard to find something that the left culturally has not already destroyed or is in the process of destroying. And it's hard to find something that has not yet at least been created in its nascent stages, if you get the meaning there.
Mm-hmm.
I think we still have we still have enough religious liberty in this country that we can still, if the pastors, if the pulpits of this country wake up and start giving their flocks unmitigated 200 proof truth, we still have enough religious liberty in this country that things could really change for the better. And I'm talking about, of course, revival, which is the same conclusion that we've come to on the first 2 weeks of this video series that we're doing. It's always revival or bust. Now, whether that revival comes as it has in places like Beijing, where the church is underground, I would prefer that not to happen, and I would prefer, for the sake of our offspring and future generations, that it not happen under those circumstances. If revival comes, it will come regardless of the circumstances. But if you gave me the choice, say, of having revival come as it has to the church in China, or as it might happen here, I would take it here with religious liberty. I mean, I think anybody would. So I would still say religious liberty. I still think that there is enough of that in this country, First Amendment freedoms, that we can still make a difference if the pulpits wake up. Todd?
So saying the gender binary, that's an acceptable answer.
Sure.
I think as I'm understanding it. I've said before that the big bang of God's vision for us as laid out in Scripture, it starts off with male and female, and it blows out from there, and then the entropy happens. It's now coming back on us, and all the ghastliness of abortion being what it is, but sequentially, you have the fall in the garden, that relationship between man and woman that Steve has laid out before, and then after that comes Cain and Abel. So as it comes, it goes out into all of history. Now it's coming all the way back. And yeah, Roe is there, but now the last line is male and female. There's nothing after that. Here and no further. Otherwise, it's the abyss. I think literally. I think all we need to look is at the story, the greatest story ever told that God has told us. If we understand that at all, this is it, right here. And if we do not defend this, we'll be swallowed up.
Up next, Tyler Ryan asks, why are we so focused on vaccines and COVID tests, but completely ignoring antibody tests to determine immunity? That's a good question. At the very, very beginning of the pandemic, I think to varying degrees, we would all, and I'm just talking for myself here, we would all agree that a focus on testing at the very nascent stages, that's definitely necessary. Really, really important, because you don't know what you're dealing with. Now, I don't know why it couldn't have been of equal importance to develop an antibody test back then to see how far it's actually spread at that point, because as we have determined and science has dictated, it's been here a lot longer than March 10th or whatever it was back in 2020. The virus has. It's been here a lot longer. So we've been through this a number of times. How do you flatten the curve when you don't know when the curve began? Well, an antibody test would at least help you give you some determination of when that curve began. So we really should have been doing this all along, but you can forgive people in March for just wanting to get tests out there as soon as humanly possible to just see how this thing is behaving, where it's going, even if it's at the expense of testing for something like the flu. You could understand that at the very beginning. Now, what you can't understand is as we got even a month, 2 months, 3 months into this, why there were not more tests, antibody surveys, nationwide. Steve would know this off the top of his head. I don't know. I think you could probably count on maybe one or not more than 2 hands how many national antibody or even regional antibody surveys there have been of any significant
CDC
import.
has not published anything since the Friday of July 4th weekend last year.
There you go.
And those antibody studies were done in the end of April to mid-May.
As we say with increasing frequency, there are a couple of possible explanations for why this is the case. Neither of them are good. One could be, and I'm going to speculate wildly here, but it's at least informed with some reason and logic. If you were just malevolent and you wanted to keep the K-stemic going, that's why you would not necessarily put an emphasis on antibody testing late last summer. Or you know that this virus is fishy because of its origins. And so you don't really know how reliable antibody testing is going to be, because maybe you know something about this, that it mutates more rapidly, or you don't know how it's going to mutate. And so antibody testing might be moot, because as soon as this one strain dies, another one takes its place, which is how viruses in general work. But those are 2 possible explanations. I don't think either of them are good.
Can I just throw something in here? Back in March, the final stage of human trials for the Regeneron antibody cocktail were finished, and actually showed higher efficacy than the now controversial Johnson & Johnson vaccine in terms of a 70% reduction in hospitalizations and lethalities from COVID. Keep in mind, this is what the president was given. Well, this is what President Trump was given last year, was the Regeneron cocktail. Now, why aren't we promoting more of that? They'll say it's because, well, it's a short term. The antibodies from the cocktail don't give you the long term protection that the vaccines would. And I'm willing to accept that. I would like to know if the people pushing the vaccines accept that, though. Because as I said again on my Twitter account yesterday, if you want, we're sitting now, any adult can now get a COVID vaccine now. Any adult can, anywhere in the country. And in several regions of the country, supplies are now outpacing demand. Why? Well, why are we not letting and encouraging fully vaccinated people to get back to normal life? It would seem to me the number one selling point for the vaccination is to get back to normal life. And yet they continue to tell you, like Fauci just did last week, that even if you're vaccinated, you still have to wear masks and social distance, which doesn't work. MIT study came out over the weekend, also showed that social distancing is a joke. Okay, it doesn't work. So that's another thing then. I'm better off going with a more natural solution with an antibody cocktail and just having a short-term relief than risking your experimental non-FDA approved mRNA vaccines that I don't have. One of the reasons they say we have to do all these vaccinations is because we don't know the long-term effects of COVID as a novel virus. Well, I don't know the long-term effects of mRNA vaccines either. I don't know those. So then why wouldn't I be better off just utilizing a Regeneron or ivermectin or something of that nature instead, when I'm not risking the same side effects or anything of that nature. So I keep bringing up why don't you let the vaccinated return to normal? And it's not from a motivation of trying to create a two-tiered system of citizenship. We're going to fight that battle whether the vaccines work or not. Okay, that battle's on the boiler right now. It's really about whether they think their vaccines work or not. I'm begging this question to get them to show their hand. Do you think your own vaccines work or not? Because if they did, wouldn't you be marketing? And where's Pfizer and Moderna demanding that those that have been given their vaccines get back to normal? If you were the CEO of Pfizer and Moderna, wouldn't you like to have that sales pitch to be thrown out there for people?
If public health was truly my bottom line, yes.
Yeah. Notice that they don't bitch and complain when Fauci goes on TV and says the vaccinated still have to stay home and wear a mask.
Yeah, instead it's, we might have to give you a booster shot every year.
So why the hell should I defend the efficacy of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines against Anthony Fauci more than the damn companies do?
Well, here's the thing. They can't advertise this thing as being too good and knocking out this thing altogether because that doesn't fit into the booster shot plan. Here's the consequence of vaccination that I can always foresee. More money, more money, more money. And that's the playbook they've always gone by. And it propping up this vaccine and threading that needle isn't just a COVID thing. It's about, as we talked about last week, it's the entire vaccination paradigm. And listen, even if, let's say this thing was the miracle drug and it just wiped it out and wiped it out permanently, that doesn't give them what the flu vaccine gives them every year, all the time. Listen, you can call me cynical, you can call whatever you want to, but this is how this thing has gone for a long, long time now. Aaron, you wanted to get in? Because piggyback by all means.
So this is what we just described are the right reasons. So why aren't we focused on antibody tests to determine immunity? If the vaccine gives you immunity, but then naturally you can be immune as well, shouldn't a natural immunity passport work as well as a vaccine passport? Have we talked about any such thing as a natural immunity passport? No, it's all about vaccine passports. So what we just described are the right reasons. Here's the real reason that the spirit of the age, I think, is driving this debate in the way that it is. I've described closing the loop on 2020, the January 6th incidents at the Capitol, were the spirit of the age's way of saying, hey, look, all of you rubes, those right-wingers are no better than you. Because the one dangling participle from 2020 was the rioting. The spirit of the age could not absolve that, could not explain that away. Try as they might, and they very, very much did try. But they couldn't explain that, which is why January 6th is an armed insurrection of right-wing terrorists on the nation's capital. That's what it is. It's the way to close the loop on the one dangling participle of 2020. Because the spirit of the age can't just win. They have to win the way they want to win. In the spirit of the age's framework, if you look at the beast, the spirit of the age's framework is science is your salvation. Science is your salvation. The way God made your body, no, that is not your salvation. Science is. This glorious vaccine is your salvation. It has to win this war against COVID. Really, it's a war against your rights the way it wants to win, which is this syringe. Now, that doesn't mean that the vaccines are not effective. That's another rabbit hole. That doesn't mean that, but I think this is really the reason why we keep having these conversations. Why can't we go back to the way we were? Why can't we live our life as the vaccine after receiving the vaccine? It's because not enough people have gotten the vaccine. It's because it's because of a number of reasons. All of them involve the spirit of the age wanting to win the way it wants to win. You want to chime in on that, either of you?
Well, we are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you take that away, you have no hope. That's what the vaccine culture wants to impress upon us, that we simply are victims with guns to our heads unless we simply accept this. How many people, whether throughout human history or in the greatest speeches that have been given in cinema, in movies, fictional and real, have talked about the importance of hope. And that's what they really want to take away with from us.
One more quick one before we go to break. Todd, you have 4 daughters. This is from Raymond Fava. How did you come up with 4 girl names you and your wife could agree on? He says the struggle is real.
No, it was pretty easy. Ainsley, the show The West Wing, we watched it. The young conservative female character that they introduced in season 2. And that was it. Tessa, that was just a cool name I once saw when I was a sports reporter, and a Hall of Fame, a girl's name here in Urbandale, Iowa, was named Tessa. And I told that to Jill, and she said, I love it. Charlotte, my third, Charlotte's Web, was popular around that time, the new movie that came out. And 4th, Elise, actually, that was another name both of us remembered from high school, Elise with a Y. So it was remarkably easy, and that was by design. I wasn't going through baby book parsing. Ain't gonna happen. Never was gonna happen. Told my wife that. No.
It's pretty impressive.
That is pretty impressive. I didn't know that history.
That's it.
That's very cool. All right, we'll come back. Your opportunity to ask Todd and Aaron, and who knows, maybe me, depending on how I'm feeling, anything, when we return here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast next. As threats against religious liberty grow, you want to make sure you've got somebody with a proven track record in this arena of success who's got your back. And for over 25 years, Alliance Defending Freedom has been protecting religious liberty, and at no cost to their clients. But to face these increasing threats to religious freedom, ADF needs help from friends like you to keep that record of winning almost 80% of its cases all time, to keep that going with new threats like the Equality Act that could force women to share private, intimate spaces with men who identify as female. It could force Americans to celebrate events, speak messages that violate your religious beliefs. That's why they want your help in protecting liberty and freedom. If you could donate so they could keep the fight going, go to adflegal.org/Steve, adflegal.org/Steve to make your tax-deductible donation today at adflegal.org/Steve. Again, adflegal.org/Steve. Aaron.
We'll go next to Tom Dearling, who asks, what should be our greater focus, strengthening the power of local/state governments or weakening the power of the federal government? I think that's a little bit of a false choice, because for one to decrease, the other must increase. Nature abhors a vacuum, right? Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that the preponderance, or at least the totality of government, cannot shrink at any given level. But it seems natural that if local government, strengthening your local representation at City Hall, as that increases, control and power from a central government in Washington, D.C., therefore must decrease. Let me give you an example of that. Let's say you live in a moderately sized city. All right, moderately, and to me, I grew up in a 2,000 town city. So moderate sized city to me is like 50, 60, 70,000 people, or even fewer than that. A moderately sized town, to where there's a lot of people there. There's a lot of people who are impacted by local ordinances and who can be impacted by federal rulings and mandates as well. There's a lot of people there. All right, not a ton, not so many that it's going to be like setting off the political equivalent of a neutron bomb, but enough to have an impact. Let's say that an unelected judge somewhere, whether it's Washington, D.C. at the Supreme Court or somewhere in your local jurisdiction at some level, some court somewhere rules that in order to be square with the Constitution, every citizen of voting age must take into their possession a transgendered baboon and transport that baboon everywhere. Is that constitutional? No, I don't think it is. But the court said so. What if your local city government says, I don't care what the court says. I don't care what the court says. We're not doing that in our town, in our moderately sized town, little podunk town somewhere. We're not going to do that. Who has more power in that instance? The Supreme Court? Some court along the line? Some court that's way so far above up in the clouds of that city hall? Do they have more power in that? No, the city hall does, because they're saying, no, that's ours. That's our decision to make. You can't impose that on us here. We're not enforcing that. In fact, we don't even recognize that as law. So to answer the question in a very, very roundabout way, for one power source or power vacuum to decrease, another in some ways must increase. Todd, do you want to add to that?
Well, for the answers us in many people's hearts and minds to bear fruit, as I've seen it many, many times, they need to be shown that the path is really open. They just don't believe it. I think the importance of breaking and crashing the federal Leviathan from just getting rid of circuit courts that aren't constitutionally prescribed in their specificity. We don't need, what is there, 9 now? However many there are. There doesn't have to be that. The entire federal bureaucracy, again, just starting off with getting rid of the Department of Education. And even for starters, you could take all the funding that's there, spread it up per capita. Ultimately, you can pull back on that. But people need to see that the right walls will all start coming down in our view, but they've got this sense of how things are. And they just need to, almost like, with Wonder Woman, when she finally kills Ares at the end of that movie and everybody finally just stops fighting, they're just like, oh my gosh, this can really happen. They need to be shown.
Here's another reason why this is a false choice as well. You already have that power. The way our Constitution, the way our system of government was set up, you already have that power. So it's not really a choice of whether we need to focus on strengthening local governments. Yes, I understand in a strategic way. I understand where you're coming from. You already have that power. Change your mindsets, change your focus on saying, wait a minute, yes, that power already lies with me, already lies with we, the people, not some unelected bureaucrat, not some judge that nobody voted for in the 666th district of Babylon, as Steve is fond of saying. This one is also kind of designed for Todd as well. Modern Neanderthal says, how do we reconcile the pursuit of youth sports with the reality that it requires missing church? I'm not sure. Now, I'll defer to Todd on this one. I'm not sure that it always requires missing church, but Todd, this one, you've got 4 daughters in youth sports.
Increasing, there was church night, Wednesday set aside for catechism. That's increasingly being infringed on. And Sunday morning for tournament play very much does not act as if church happens. Really, this is about you and your family and what you make a priority. We've been in Catholic churches not only throughout the city of Des Moines when we're in town, but all across the Midwest. We find a church, we look up when mass time is, and we get there. It's doable, and sometimes the kids are a little late to the game, things of that nature. But so that's one thing. But also, this is just like with COVID and masks. And are you really going to let your 4-year-old wear a mask? What are you doing about this? You guys are on the boards, aren't you? It's your priority. And this is the comfort level that I always talk about, the gated community effect. Most people have simply chosen that the youth sport that their kid plays is a priority over church. That's on you.
Yeah. And this actually goes to what I just said in the live read I did for ADF. The truth of the matter is, no one can make you do something that God says is wrong. No one can make you do that. That's a choice that you make. Now, that doesn't mean that there's never a reason to play on Sundays or anything of that nature. But in general, you cannot be compelled against your own conscience. And that's true in any society, whether it's China or here. It's a matter of what you consent to. That's what government by the consent of the governed means. So, will they schedule a game on Sunday? I don't know. I'm not saying don't go, but why is the automatic assumption if they scheduled it at Thursday at 3 a.m., would you take your kid there? Right. I tell my kid, hell no, we're not going at 3 a.m. Old man is sleeping. I'm not playing at 3 a.m. Right?
Right.
So what is the idea that we just automatically just consent to things? I've never really had a lot of issues in my career. People have tried it before. There was a guy here locally that tried it once. So it's happened every now and then, but there really haven't been a line of people that have lined up to try to get me to sell out or say and do things that I don't believe. You know why? Because word got around pretty quick. Homie, don't play that. I'm not doing that. If I think it's right, I'll do it. If I don't, I won't. That's it. That's my standard. If I think it's right, I'll do it. If I don't, I won't. If I want to be there, I will. If I don't, I won't. If I want to say that, I will. And if I don't, I won't. Pretty simple standard, right?
Yeah.
So there's really no point in even trying it. I mean, I faced a situation very early in my career. It was in sports radio, actually. And I said to my management then, I'm not apologizing for anything. And so just know if you're asking me to apologize, you're really firing me, and I'll just be filing for unemployment tomorrow. Or maybe I'll be working at one of the other sports radio stations here in town the next day instead. I'm not apologizing. No. I mean, this idea that there's just like an automatic compulsion to comply. No, I don't really feel pressure to do things I don't really believe in or want to do. So don't do them. What, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really been as simple as, we'll be there a little late or because we're going to mass, and that's just how it is. It's just your choice. It's your family. Period.
Up next, our own Sarah Gonzalez asks, who is your favorite BlazeTV host aside from Steve, and why is it Sarah Gonzalez? Todd.
Nice.
Well, I do dig Sarah. She's a fellow skeptic in the cult of health science. Well, let's leave it at that. Just a cool chick all around. And like I said, the reason we got her on the show last week about what would happen if a Karen used her own child in the hallways, like they could step to a guy. I'd have no problem getting ornery if she deserved it. But we need to be a bit more careful. It could go total thermonuclear if it was Sarah Gonzalez, and I'd pop the popcorn for that.
Yeah, there's a quality about Sarah, especially that I see on Twitter as well, that she gives no quarter to BS, gives no quarter to things that nobody should give any quarter to. She just doesn't care, and I like that. Paul Engel asks, what do you think of the audit of ballots in Arizona is going to result in?
Can I speak to that really quick?
Sure.
So I have been following this story. I want to see how it plays out before I jump out in front and give a whole bunch of opinions. Okay. But I'm definitely aware of the story. I'm following it closely, but I want to see what the outcome is first. Okay. I don't want to make a bunch of false promises. And I want to see what the outcome of it is beforehand. And I have no ability to impact that outcome or know what it is until it occurs. And and the story's actually already gotten further than I ever thought it was going to get anyway. So I'm following it, but I want to see how it plays out first.
So I'm going to take, I've just heard about this like late last week for the first time. I don't know when you guys heard of it the first time. So I'm not super aware. I have not been following it super closely. I do know the reaction. I believe Talking Points memo actually called it a sketchy audit. What happens if it comes back and it says, yeah, nothing to see here? Is that still sketchy?
Right. That's a great point.
Is that still sketchy?
Yes.
So I'll just say this really quick, and then Todd, you can get on this. One
talking points memo was hacktastic anyway, by the way. But
I love that, and I saw. I think USA Today as well. I said something about used the word sketchy as well. So if this comes back and there's nothing to see here, everything looks A-okay, 100%, then okay, whatever. We did the audit. Now, if it comes back and, whoa, there's smoke and fire, and then lots of fire, I think what we're going to see right then is a legal battle in the courts that goes on for years, months,
Agreed.
as long as it takes to, I kind of remember. You remember that time Fox News called Arizona before anybody else? As long as it takes for the average American or even the average political observer to say that when confronted with the news that hundreds of thousands of illegal ballots found in Arizona takes, that's how long they're going to let that drag on. So.
I'm sure, Todd, the Democrats have sent over 70 lawyers to Arizona because they're confident that this thing's all on the up and up and there's nothing to see here.
Right. But no matter what there is to see, nothing or everything, the response from the left is going to be the same.
We did it for your own good.
Well, I mean, I'd find that refreshing if they just admit they stole it. No, it's going to be more. You guys just can't handle losing. You're conspiracy theorists. Even if there is a conspiracy theory to be had, that's what they're going to do because accountability is wanting at every turn, and propaganda is what they do.
Amanda Barris says, just how far do you think Marvel will go with woke storylines in its next phase, especially regarding same-sex relationships and trans characters? Steve, Kevin Feige is he still the visionary of Marvel? Kevin Feige and the storytellers at Marvel just have like a fetish for telling really good stories. Now, I could be wrong, and the very next thing that comes out of Marvel is just woke propaganda agitprop. I could be wrong. I think they place such a high reverence on the value of a good story that I think all of this posturing that we've heard over the last couple of years about the direction they want to take Phase 4, I think that's just all it is to this point. And we've had 2 examples of this so far. I think it's just posturing.
We'll see. I hope you're right. At the very least, I think there'll be some token representation they can brag about. Hey, trying to sell your home in any environment can be challenging. And, you may run into an agent that has a sexy, deep baritone, silky smooth voice like I've been rocking here today. And you don't want to fall for it, right? Right?
Sure.
Okay. You want to make sure you've got an agent that in these unprecedented times has a proven, verified track record of success that you can rely on, who will come in and take charge of the situation, yes, but then ultimately remember that it is you who is in charge. Where would you find such an agent? The good news is the name kind of says it all. realestateagentsitrust.com is where you want to go, just about anywhere in the good old US of A. They can find you an agent anywhere you want to escape from or escape to, probably. They can help you. At realestateagentsitrust.com. A lot of these are agents that are right here in the Blaze TV audience, in fact. So just salt of the earth patriots, like a lot of you, at realestateagentsitrust.com. All right. We're back at it again tomorrow, noon to 2 Eastern, hopefully, with a better voice than I brought to the table today. Overtime coming your way for Blaze TV subscribers. For the rest of you, we will be back right after Glenn Beck tomorrow here on Blaze TV. Until then, John 3:17.